Today, we're diving deep into the Lands, but we're not just rewatching the movie. We're going to uncover a story that's often overlooked, a forgotten legacy that connects Simba and Scar in a way you might have never considered. We all know the classic tale, a noble king, a jealous brother, and a young prince forced into exile. But what if I told you there's more to it? The story of Mufasa, Scar, and Simba isn't just a simple battle of good versus evil. It's a complex family drama, a cycle of trauma and ambition that echoes through generations. Let's start by looking at Scar. We see him as the villain, the treacherous uncle who murdered his own brother. But have you ever wondered how he became that way? The movie doesn't give us much, but supplementary materials in the original Broadway show hint at a deeper backstory. His real name was Taka, which in Swahili means dirt or trash. Imagine growing up with a name like that, while your brother Mufasa is destined for greatness. From the very beginning, the world told Taka he was second best, that he was lesser. This kind of environment breeds resentment. Mufasa was strong, charismatic, and born to rule. Taka was clever, strategic, but physically weaker. He was constantly living in his brother's shadow, a shadow that stretched over the entire Lands. It's said that he got his scar during a failed attempt to prove his worth, a painful, permanent reminder of his perceived inadequacy. When he renamed himself Scar, it wasn't just a name change, it was a declaration. He was embracing the pain and bitterness that had defined his life. He was no longer Taka, the unwanted one. He was Scar, a being forged in resentment. This doesn't excuse his actions, of course. Murder and tyranny are unforgivable, but it does add a layer of tragic complexity. Scar's evil wasn't born out of thin air. It was cultivated over years of feeling invisible and undervalued. He believed the throne was his right, a way to finally prove his superiority over the brother who had everything. His plan to kill Mufasa and Simba wasn't just a power grab. For him, it was the ultimate act of vengeance against a world and a family that he felt had wronged him from birth. Now, let's fast forward. Mufasa is gone, and Scar's reign begins. He promises a new era where the hyenas are integrated and the old rules no longer apply. On the surface, it sounds revolutionary, almost progressive, but his leadership is driven by that same deep-seated insecurity and hunger for validation. He doesn't rule with wisdom like Mufasa. He rules with an iron fist, fueled by paranoia. He is so desperate to keep the power he stole that he ends up destroying the very kingdom he wanted to rule. The Lands wither, the food disappears, and the circle of life is broken. Scar's reign is a perfect illustration of how leadership born from bitterness and trauma ultimately leads to ruin. He got the crown, but he never truly became king. Meanwhile, far away in the jungle, Simba is growing up. He's living a carefree life of Hakuna Matata, actively trying to forget his past. But you can't outrun trauma. Simba isn't just avoiding his responsibilities. He's running from the immense guilt he feels over his father's death. Scar masterfully manipulated him into believing it was his fault. This lie becomes the defining wound of Simba's life. It shapes him into a prince who shirks his duty, who is terrified of facing his own reflection because he sees a failure, a coward. Think about it. Both Simba and Scar are profoundly shaped by Mufasa's death. For Scar, it's the culmination of his life's ambition, the act that puts him on the throne. For Simba, it's the source of his deepest shame, the event that drives him into exile. They're two sides of the same tragic coin, both their lives rerouted by that single moment in the gorge. Their forgotten legacy isn't just about the throne. It's about how they each deal with the shadow Mufasa left behind. When Nala finds Simba, she doesn't just ask him to come back. She forces him to confront the person he has become. He's no longer the brave, curious cub. He's an adult living in denial. The journey back to the Lands is more than just a physical trip. It's a journey inward, Rafiki's famous lesson. The past can hurt, but you can either run from it or learn from it, is the turning point. Simba has to stop running. He has to accept what happened and understand his true place in the circle of life. The final confrontation between Simba and Scar is electric, not just because it's a physical battle for the kingdom, but because it's a clash of these two broken legacies. When Simba pins Scar in the exact same way Scar pinned him as a cub, it's a powerful moment of reversal. But the real climax is when Scar, desperate and cornered, reveals the truth. "I killed Mufasa." In that moment, everything changes. The guilt that has weighed Simba down for years is lifted. It wasn't his fault. That revelation unleashes a righteous fury in Simba, not just for his father's murder, but for the years of lies and manipulation that stole his youth and his identity. He's no longer fighting as a guilty coward. He's fighting as the rightful king, avenging his father and reclaiming his destiny. And this is where their legacies truly diverge. Scar, even at the very end, is ruled by his own self. He blames the hyenas, trying to save his own skin. His entire life has been about himself, and he dies as he lived, alone and betrayed by those he used. Simba, on the other hand, learns from his past. He accepts his responsibility. When he takes the throne, he doesn't rule with an iron fist. He restores the balance. He heals the land that Scar's bitterness had poisoned. The forgotten legacy of Simba and Scar is this powerful cycle of trauma and recovery. Scar let his pain and resentment consume him, and it led to the destruction of everything he touched. Simba, though he ran from his pain for years, eventually confronted it. He learned from it and used it to become a wise and compassionate leader, arguably even greater than his father, because he had experienced loss and failure. Simba's reign isn't just a continuation of Mufasa, it's a new chapter, one that acknowledges the darkness and chooses the light. He understands the fragility of peace because he has seen what happens when it's lost. He understands the importance of truth because he lived a life built on a lie. This is the true meaning of the circle of life. It's not just about birth and death. It's about learning, growing, and healing from the wounds of the past to create a better future. The shadow of the throne touched both Scar and Simba, but while one was consumed by it, the other learned to step out of it and into the sun. What do you guys think? Does this change how you see Scar and Simba? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. It's a story with so much depth, and I love exploring these different layers with you all. If you enjoyed, and adds a tragic new layer to the rivalry between Simba and Scar. This isn't just a fan theory. It's a tale pieced together from the extended universe of The Lion King, specifically from the book series The Lion King. 6 new adventures. Let's set the scene. Before Simba was born, Mufasa and Sarabi had another son. His name was Kopa. As the firstborn, Kopa was destined to be the future king. He was a curious and adventurous cub, much like his future younger brother, Simba. He loved exploring the Pride Lands and hearing stories from his father, Mufasa. His best friend was a lioness cub named Vitani, a name that might ring a bell for fans of The Lion King II. Their friendship was innocent, a bright spot in the Pride Lands. But a dark shadow was always lurking, a shadow named Scar. Scar, whose real name was Taka, had always been jealous of his brother Mufasa. Being passed over for the throne had filled him with a bitter resentment that festered for years. When Kopa was born, that jealousy found a new target. Kopa represented everything Scar despised. The continuation of Mufasa's line. The future he felt was stolen from him. In his twisted mind, Kopa was just another obstacle. According to the books, Scar's hatred boiled over. He saw his chance to strike at the heart of Mufasa's happiness. He enlisted the help of Zira, a fiercely loyal lioness, who shared his disdain for Mufasa's rule. Together, they orchestrated a tragic attack on the young prince. While the details are grim, the story implies that Kopa was ambushed and left for dead. Zira, in her fanatic loyalty to Scar, carried out the brutal act. The Pride Lands were told that the young prince had been tragically lost. The grief that followed was immense. Mufasa and Sarabi were devastated by the loss of their son. This event would have cast a long, dark cloud over the kingdom long before Simba's birth. Imagine the weight Mufasa carried, not just as a king, but as a father who had lost his firstborn heir. This adds an incredible depth to his character. His protectiveness over Simba in the movie suddenly makes so much more sense. He wasn't just afraid of losing another son. He was living a recurring nightmare. Then, Simba was born. He was the new hope, the second chance for a broken-hearted family and a grieving kingdom. For Mufasa, Simba was a miracle, a ray of light after a period of immense darkness. This is why he was so adamant about teaching Simba the responsibilities of being a king and the dangers that lurked in the shadows. He had already paid the ultimate price for underestimating his brother's malice. Now, let's look at Scar. With Kopa gone, Scar's path to the throne seemed clearer. But then Simba arrived, a new little Simba to stand in his way. His line in the movie, "I was first in line until the little prince arrived," takes on a chilling double meaning. He wasn't just talking about he was talking about Kopa, too. His frustration wasn't just about being second to Mufasa. It was about being repeatedly pushed down the line of succession. He had already removed one heir, and now another had appeared. This makes his plot to kill Mufasa and Simba not just an act of ambition, but an act of desperate, repeated cruelty. After Mufasa's death and Simba's exile, Scar finally seized the throne. During his tyrannical reign, the Pride Lands withered. This is the period when Zero and her followers, the Outsiders, were his most fervent supporters. Their loyalty stemmed from their shared ideology and, in Zero's case, her role in eliminating Kopa. She believed Scar was the rightful king and that her own son, Kovu, was his chosen heir. This brings us to Simba's return. When he comes back and defeats Scar, he's not just avenging his father. He's unknowingly avenging his long-lost brother. He's reclaiming a throne that had been twice stolen from his family line. When Simba becomes king, he restores balance. But he does so without ever knowing the full story of the brother who came before him. Kopa remains a ghost, a forgotten prince whose tragedy shaped the destinies of everyone involved. So what happened to Kopa? The book series leaves his fate slightly ambiguous, hinting that he may have survived the attack and fled the Pride Lands, too traumatized to return. Some fans love to imagine a scenario where an adult Kopa eventually comes back, leading to a complex reunion with Simba. Could you imagine that meeting? Two brothers, both rightful heirs, who never knew each other. One raised in exile, the other presumed dead. It's a powerful idea. This story of the Forgotten King completely reframes the Lion King as we know it. It turns a classic tale of good versus evil into a multi-generational family tragedy. Mufasa's wisdom feels deeper, born from past sorrow. Scar's villainy becomes even more monstrous, as we see his cruelty wasn't a one-time event but a pattern of behavior. And Simba's journey becomes even more heroic. He isn't just taking his place in the circle of life. He's healing a wound that was inflicted on his family long before he was born. The tale of Kopa shows that the shadows in the Pride Lands run deeper than we ever imagined. It's a reminder that even in our favorite stories, there are often hidden histories and forgotten figures whose sacrifices and tragedies pave the way for the heroes we know and love. Kopa is the shadow of the throne, the forgotten prince whose story makes Simba's victory and the entire saga of the Lion King all the more meaningful. What do you think? Does the story of Kopa change how you see the Lion King? Let me know. Today, we're journeying back to the sun-drenched plains of Africa to uncover a story hiding in plain sight, a tale woven into the very fabric of the Lion King. We all know the epic saga of Simba's rise, Scar's treachery, and the ultimate restoration of balance. But what if I told you there's a deeper, more complex legacy that both these royal lions left behind? A legacy that continues to cast long shadows over the Pride Lands, long after the final credits rolled. This is the story of the forgotten shadows of Simba and Scar. Let's start with Scar. We see him as the quintessential villain, jealous, power-hungry, and ultimately self-destructive. His reign was a disaster, turning the vibrant Pride Lands into a barren wasteland. But Scar's shadow is more than just a cautionary tale about greed. It's about the seductive poison of a victim narrative. From his perspective, he was the overlooked, intellectually superior brother, denied his birthright by brute strength. As far as brains go, I got the lion's share, he laments. But as far as brute strength, I'm afraid I'm at the shallow end of the gene pool. This mindset, this belief that the world has wronged you, is a powerful and destructive force. It's a shadow that can fall on anyone, turning resentment into a justification for cruelty. Scar's legacy isn't just about his own actions, it's about the system that created him. Was he born evil, or was he made? The Lion King universe hints that the firstborn always inherits the throne, This primogeniture system, common in human monarchies, automatically creates a spare. A second in line who can easily feel redundant and resentful. Scar, originally named Taka, which means dirt or want in Swahili, seems to have been branded from birth. He was the lesser son. This doesn't excuse his terrible deeds, of course, but it adds a tragic layer to his character. His shadow represents the danger of rigid social structures and the bitterness that festers when individuals feel they have no value or path to greatness. When Scar takes over, his rule is defined by chaos and unsustainable promises. He invites the hyenas into the Pride Lands, telling them, "You'll never go hungry again." This alliance, built on a promise of endless consumption, is a powerful metaphor for short-sighted leadership. This brings us to Simba's heir, Kiara, and the story of the Lion King too. Simba's result: the herds leave, the river dries up, and the land dies. This shadow of ecological disaster is a stark warning. This brings us to Simba's heir, Kiara, and the story of the Lion King too. Simba's pride. Scar's forgotten legacy is a masterclass in how not to lead. His journey is one of redemption and reclaiming his destiny. But even a hero casts a shadow. When Simba flees the Pride Lands, he leaves a power vacuum that Scar eagerly fills. His mantra Hakuna Matata, while a fun and catchy tune, represents a profound abdication of responsibility. It's the philosophy of no worries, of ignoring the past and living only for the present. While this helps him cope with his trauma, it's also a deeply selfish act. For years, as Simba enjoys a carefree life in the jungle, his kingdom suffers and withers under Scar's tyranny. This shadow of avoidance is a critical part of Simba's legacy. It teaches us that you cannot run away from your problems or your duties forever. The past, as Rafiki wisely says, can hurt, but you can either run from it or learn from it. Simba's extended exile shows the consequences of choosing to run. His kingdom nearly collapses because its rightful king chose personal comfort over his responsibilities to his people. This isn't to demonize Simba. He was a traumatized cub, but it's a reminder that even good intentions, like seeking peace of mind, can have devastating unintended consequences when they involve turning your back on those who depend on you. His shadow is the difficult truth that leadership often means facing pain and duty, not escaping it. When Simba finally returns, he defeats Scar and reclaims the throne. The rains return, and the Pride Lands are reborn. It's a triumphant ending. But what kind of king does Simba become? He seems to restore Mufasa's vision of the circle of life, but the films don't show us the hard work of rebuilding a shattered nation. The legacy of Scar's reign, the starvation, the trauma, the division between lions and hyenas wouldn't just vanish with the change of leadership. Simba's second shadow is the unspoken challenge of reconciliation. How do you heal a kingdom so deeply wounded? How do you reintegrate those who supported the old regime? The story ends on a high note, but the practical, messy work of governance is left to our imagination. This brings us to Simba's heir, Kiara, and the story of the Lion King too. Simba's pride. Here, we see Simba's shadow in full effect. He has become overprotective, fearful, and distrustful. Especially of the outsiders, the lionesses still loyal to Scar. He sees Scar's reflection in Scar's chosen heir, and his judgment is clouded by the trauma of his past. The line he is following in Scar's paw prints, "And I must follow in my father's," shows how deeply he is trapped by the past. He is so afraid of history repeating itself that he nearly creates the very conflict he fears. This is the shadow of generational trauma. Simba's unresolved pain and fear are passed down, shaping his daughter's life and threatening the peace of the entire kingdom. Simba's struggle as a father is a powerful, often overlooked part of his legacy. He loves Kiara, but his fear makes him controlling. He doesn't trust her judgment, and he imposes his own prejudices onto her. This is a very real and relatable shadow. Many of us have seen how the fears of one generation can become the burdens of the next. Simba's journey in the sequel is about learning to let go of that fear and to trust in the new generation's ability to forge its own path. It's about learning that true strength lies not in controlling others, but in love and forgiveness. Ultimately, the forgotten legacies of Simba and Scar are two sides of the same coin. They are about power, responsibility, and the cycles of history. Scar represents the destructive path of resentment and selfishness. Simba represents the path of responsibility, but also the dangers of avoidance and unresolved trauma. His story shows that even after you defeat the monster, you must also confront the monster's shadow within yourself and your community. The true final battle isn't against a villain. It's the struggle to heal, to forgive, and to build a future that isn't just a repeat of the past. The story of the Pride Lands is timeless because it's not just about lions, it's about us. It asks about how societies deal with their darkest chapters and how individuals confront their own inner demons. The shadows of Scar and Simba remind us that history is never truly over. Its lessons, its wounds, and its legacies live on, shaping the present and challenging us to build a better, more balanced future, a true circle of life. What do you think? Are there other hidden legacies or shadows in The Lion King that we missed? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. It's been a blast diving deep into this classic with you. If you enjoyed this analysis, please hit that like button. And do you and F forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you do and F miss our next journey into your favorite stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.